All right, welcome everybody to the post-mortem edition of the crime of the century that was that was committed Sunday afternoon in the Louisiana Superdome. I'm your host Alan Ulrich for another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm here with my partner Sean Williams, who, despite what it looks like, A, was not a member of Fight Club. We're not supposed to talk about that. And B, did not get falling down drunk. It was just something that happened. He met the wrong end of the sidewalk on a cold day. So anyway, welcome, Sean. How are you doing other than that?
Oh, I look like a bruised turd, but, we're going to power through. And I want to start things. Well, let me pay the bills first. Thanks to Fan First Productions for sponsoring us. Invite you guys to subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. We love every one of you, and we thank you for being a part of our show tonight. All right, let's get right into this. If you joined Under the Dome tonight thinking that I was going to be a loose cannon and absolutely lose my mind and show my behind, stick around. And Alan's old enough to appreciate the network reference. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Oh, yeah.
What you saw Sunday, you got to take it in context. Well, let's step back away from this a bit first. You go back a year ago, the way that the Saints exited the playoffs with the Minnesota Miracle, that was one thing. You process that. It takes you a whole year of watching, hoping, praying, and all that, thinking maybe we will have the opportunity to redeem that, maybe, and make that right. You managed to navigate to a 13-3 record, best record in the National Football League. You get number one seed in the playoffs, home field advantage throughout. You wind up in a rematch with arguably the second best team in the National Football League in the Los Angeles Rams. I have never... I spent too many years as a player. I've never been one to sit back and say the referees cost us the game. Because if you go back and you look through the course of the game, there is always a play where you could have made a little bit more of a difference, and those things add up going. What happened Sunday in the Superdome is just the latest in a long and apparently never-ending line of absolute incompetency when it comes to whatever the governing body of the National Football League is. It strikes at the very integrity of this game that I do so love so very much. It absolutely is wrong what happened in New Orleans. And not only that, you factor in the fact that when the game is over, the league office gets in touch with Sean Payton and says, we admit that was a mistake and they blew that call or that no call. They blew the opportunity to call targeting on the very same player, ironically enough, early in the game. Oops, our bad. Sorry. I would much rather that the league offices said absolutely nothing and just left it alone than to do the oops, sorry thing, because that's for a supporter of this team, a New Orleans Saints fan, that is absolutely equal to you walking up and spitting in my face. Because all you're saying by saying, oops, sorry, is get over it, go sit down. The team that we wanted to have in our championship game, the franchise that we want to see succeed in a place that has failed 3 times for lack of support, we got them where we want them. Go sit down and know your place. Just like all those years ago with Bountygate. Sit down and shut up. Take your place. Know your place. And okay. I get it. I get the reality of the situation. You want the Los Angeles franchise to flourish and succeed. Roger Goodell, and I want to put this as delicately as I possibly can. Roger Goodell can smoke a turd in hell right now because he sits back and he allows this to happen. He has not opened his mouth. Do I expect him to say, okay, we'll just replay it? No, I don't expect that. That's not going to happen. That's not reality. What happened. It's done. It's over with. We got screwed. It's not going to change. But the fact that you just sit back and wet yourself because the 2 teams that you wanted in the Super Bowl matchup to get your West Coast and your East Coast matchup, he got it. Okay, that's all good. You don't seem to realize that the integrity of the game is suffering because you have players that cheat and get slapped on the wrist and wind up in the Super Bowl the next season because you gave them a 4-game rest at the beginning of the season to make them fresh for a playoff run. And in the process of that, this media crap that you control and that you twist made it about the vindication of Tom Brady getting that trophy from Roger Goodell after he was so wrongly suspended. You have referees that blatantly miss calls and punish a small market team. What's next? Where are you going to go from here? You got people. I have talked to God only knows how many people in the last couple of days. I'm done with the NFL. I've disabled all my apps. I've taken off this. I'm unsubscribed to that because it looks the very. All you got to go on a lot of the times is the optics of it, what it looks like, because in society nowadays, 99% of the time, to this generation, perception is reality. The perception is that playing these games doesn't matter. There is no integrity in that. And if that be the case, take the NFL logo off the helmet, off the field, and just slap a World Wrestling Federation logo down there. Bring in some writers, let's script the ending, and let's make it look as good as we can. Because what you're doing right now has no real value.
Well, my take is this. I mean, number one, I do understand that the officials will let players play because they don't want to interfere with the outcome of a game. They do not want to call to determine the outcome of a game. I understand that. And I also understand this dumb argument that, well, you had other opportunities to score and win the game. 2 things. Number one, but by not making a call, you have, in fact, altered the outcome of a game. One team lost, one team won. based almost entirely on that one call. I don't want to hear about overtime and all the other, and you could have stopped them from kicking a tying field goal. I don't want to hear that. You've got two of the best teams in football. You're not going to stop them the whole game. They have a great offense and a great defense. We have a great offense and a great defense. We're not. They're going to try and stop us from scoring as well. Okay, I can deal with the Minnesota Miracle. I can deal with Calvin Nicholson getting beat by Michael Haynes in the 1991 playoff game. I can deal with the safety and the pick six in the 1992 playoff game. I can deal with those kind of things because that happened on the field as far as one team physically beating another. I can't deal with let me back up a little bit. I can even deal with the questionable calls that you can argue one way or another. Did Frenchie Fuqua really touch the ball, or did Jack Tatum touch the ball in the Immaculate Reception? I can deal with was Mike Renfro inbounds or was he not inbounds in the AFC Championship game in 1978? I can deal, or 79. I can deal with that. Those are debatable calls, debatable issues where you can say one thing or another. This was textbook pass interference. The defensive back for the Rams even admitted, I committed pass interference because I didn't want to give up a touchdown. I looked around and I was shocked to see there was no flag. He said it. This is not one of those cases, well, yeah, maybe, that's a tick. Did Dez really catch the ball? You could argue one way or another. No, this is textbook pass interference. The league then calls up and admits we blew the call. So there is no argument whether or not it should have been made. The fact is it should have been made. And for those saying that, well, you had other opportunities, you're only going to get a handful of opportunities when you have two relatively evenly matched teams playing one another. I'm sorry we didn't blow out the Rams. I wish we would have. I wish we would have scored in every possession we had, just like we did against the Buffalo Bills in 2017 or against the Cincinnati Bengals this year. I wish we would have scored on every possession. It doesn't work out that way. They are paid to stop us from scoring, and they have the defense to stop us from scoring. The problem was, at that point of the game, I said this to myself, because nobody else wants to sit in a room with a screaming lunatic like me during the Saints game. But I said to myself in the game, after the Ted Ginn catch, we get one first down. This game is over. One first down is all we needed. First play, they're going to criticize that play because it's a quick slant. You know what? Drew Brees throws that ball 10 times. 9 times he puts it right where he wants to put it. This one pass he threw a little too low that Michael Thomas couldn't catch. Okay. Bad call in retrospect because Michael Thomas didn't catch the ball. It's in the field of play, not out of bounds. Catches that ball, the Rams have to burn a timeout. They don't have to burn our timeout now. Second down. Now, granted, we have only rushed for 48 yards the whole game. So we have not been very good at rushing the football in this game. I said last week that we need to be able to run the football. We didn't. We didn't do a good job running the football. Part of that is because of injuries to Teron Armstead and Andrus Peat. Part of it was the health factor that the entire Rams defense was healthy. And Aaron Donald and Sue had great games, okay? We couldn't run the football. We try running the football. We don't pick up much yardage. So now it's third down. We're going to take a shot. Either we try and run the ball one more time, make them use that last timeout, or if we really, really like a pass play, we're going to do a pass play and maybe go for the win. That's another thing that people are criticizing the Saints for. Well, they call bad plays, and that's like, I think I saw Marcus Peters say that. Well, he should have run the ball 3 times, make us use up our timeouts, then kick the field goal. Okay. What would have happened if Tommy Lee Lewis catches that football? Okay. What probably happens? He probably scores a touchdown on that play. Okay? He probably scores. At worst, he steps out of bounds around the 3 or 2 yard line. At worst. Okay? The point is, that was an aggressive go-to play rather than Sean Payton playing for the field goal. Because that pass interference happens now we're stuck. Now we have to kick the field goal now. They still have that timeout, and they've got more time to get down the field to score a field goal with one of the most accurate kickers in the NFL this year to kick a field goal to tie the game to force an overtime. You make that call, we get a first down, none of that happens. That's our opportunity to close out the game and win the game. You took that away from us by not making that call. That's what's frustrating. So the league's going to come back and say, well, you know what? Now we're going to look at, just like in 2009, when Brett Favre didn't get to go to the Super Bowl like he was supposed to. Now we're going to look at changing some of the rules. We had to change the overtime rules because Brett Favre didn't get a shot. We're going to change the overtime rules in this game because of this game. Okay. We're going to make pass interference maybe reviewable. Okay, what about non-calls? Well, you're not going to do that because can you imagine what that would be like? You could challenge non-calls or an official. I mean, the coach can challenge non-calls. Throws a flag. I think you should have called holding on that play, on that big run. Okay, how are they going to do that? The league is not going to allow that. So to me, what has to happen now is you have to almost adopt a college rule format where you have officials who are up in the booth, one official or two officials up in the booth, and they make the call. You don't call the play. They buzz down to the guy before the next play starts. No, you need to review this and then make a call. That's the only way you can fix this now. You have to have officials in the booth who will challenge. Not coaches, not players, nothing like that. It has to be officials up there who make the call to challenge a play, especially in the last 2 minutes of a ball game, especially at that point of the game. Because what we saw all this year, what constitutes roughing the passer? What constitutes a tackle? Oh, I put all my weight on a guy when I brought him down. That's a flag. Ask, what was his name? Clay Matthews.
Clay Matthews.
Ask Clay Matthews about that. All these bad calls, and one day you're going to have a call like this happen in an important game like this game. Imagine what will happen if in 2 weeks the same kind of thing happens. A critical call against the Patriots does not happen, or a critical call to help the Patriots happens. And the Patriots score on that final possession because of a bad call that was made or not made, probably not made. What happens in that case? You have the entire nation watching the Super Bowl. What does that say about your quality of officials?
I can tell you what. I can tell you one thing that'll happen.
What?
I'm going to post a meme that I have saved for just such an instance that, and if any of my family is watching, I apologize ahead of time. It basically says, "I hope I'm there when karma sodomizes you with the cactus." I shall post that if it happens.
Well, but the point is, you have to fix your officiating problem because this is an ongoing problem for those Falcon fans and for those Viking fans, maybe a couple of Steelers fans, people like that saying, "Well, see, payback's a bitch. This is what karma looks like." For those people saying that stuff, it's going to happen to you. It will happen to you. You can't just sit there and say, well, that was just a Saints. It doesn't matter. Because it will be a play like a Fail Mary, the Green Bay Seattle game, the last game with the replacement officials. It would be that kind of game, except that kind of call, I should say, except at a critical game, like a conference championship, like a playoff berth, where the difference between you going on to a Super Bowl or winning a championship or not, it's because of an official who made a call, not because of what you did on the field. Okay? Not because of what you did on the field, because every time you touch the ball, that's an opportunity. You can't look back at the other opportunities and say, well, you know what? We should have got 7 instead of 3 there. Dan Arnold should have caught that ball in that first touchdown in the end zone instead of dropping. You can't look at that because those opportunities are gone. Your job is to create new opportunities, and if that opportunity is stolen from you, not because of a great defensive play, but is stolen from you because an official misses an obvious call, then
that's the thing. Right. That's the point. You know, all these Cowboy fans that have come at me with, well, hey, I bet that Dez Bryant play doesn't look the same to you now. Well, you know, Dez Bryant was debatable. Is there anybody that has ever watched the game of football that can watch that play and not say that that was pass interference and not say that that was a blatant head-to-head contact in the second quarter, in the second possession? You know, but you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's done. It's had. Our buddy from the Buck What You Heard podcast, Gene, said something on here on our live chat that just basically says the whole thing. It says, this was the last few minutes of a close game. Refs got one job to do. The refs should be held to a higher standard than players because they represent unbiased parties.
Exactly.
And that's it. Exactly. You are supposed to do your job no matter if that's New Orleans and Los Angeles or New England and Los Angeles or whoever it is. You got one damn job to do.
These are supposed to be the best officials. These are the guys who are graded the highest. They get rewarded by doing conference championship games. They get rewarded by doing Super Bowls because he did such a great job throughout the year. This is your best. This is the best you can offer.
I hope their house gets burned.
Well, but I'm just saying, when this happens, and it will happen in the Super Bowl, it will happen. And I'm not talking about a questionable pass interference like Benny Barnes on Lynn Swann in Super Bowl 13. I'm not talking about something like that. I'm talking about an obvious pass interference call. I'm not talking about, well, you know, look at the Vikings in Super Bowl 9 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was number 87. I just forgot his name just now.
Benny Cunningham.
No. Benny Cunningham was Benny Cunningham wasn't on the Steelers yet. This is Super Bowl 9. This is in Tulane Stadium. It's Roosevelt. No, it's it'll come to me. Anyway, in that play, I know the official's name is Ed Marion. Ed Marion, because I can hear John Vicente say his name. You know, Ed Marion, the official who was behind the play but had the best view of the play. You know, that kind of thing. You watch the Super Bowl 9 highlights, you know what I'm talking about. Number 87, he fumbled the ball just as his butt touches the AstroTurf. So no fumble. It's not a fumble because he was down by contact. But the Vikings claim that was a turning point in the game, which they could have got back in it because they only lost 16-6. And Terry Bradshaw went on to score on that drive because it was only it was only 9-6 at that point of the game. Anyway, it's not one of those kind of plays. This is a play where no matter what angle you look at, like you're saying, this is textbook pass interference. You took a guy out to keep him from catching the ball. You lowered the helmet, hit him in the head, knocked him into the stands. That's classic pass interference. There's no tip ball. There's nothing. The ball, you see the ball go right where he was. So, I mean, that's what I have to keep reinforcing. This is not some kind
I don't know.
This is not a debatable play.
I don't know how much what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know how valid the argument is. Of course, you know, when something like this happens. Oh, wait a minute. I got to sit up.
Yeah, you're sliding.
Yeah. My camera slipped. There we go. I don't know how much validity there is to all these things. when these things happen, well, he played for the that referee played for the Rams and played for the Falcons, but over the course of the past couple of days, I've heard that there were of that officiating crew, 3 of them live in Los Angeles. One of them played for the Rams. I don't know, and I don't really care about all of that because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is tomorrow is Wednesday, and we're going to wake up and we're still not going to be in the Super Bowl. And there's nothing that's going to change that. Did we deserve to be there? Maybe not. We had the opportunity to prove that. Even with everything that we've already discussed, you look at those first 2 drives of that game. You drive down, boom, 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 in that first drive, and then you stall inside the red zone, kick a field goal. You take it down the next, or I believe that was when the Demario Davis pick happened, was on the first Rams possession.
Yes, yeah. It was.
Okay, you got first and 10 inside the red zone, and you stall out and you kick it. There were opportunities, and there were opportunities that were missed. In a game like this, you cannot leave anything to chance. You cannot say, well, we got Will Lutz and Will save us. No.
No, it's one of those things where the fact of the matter is you have to make that kind of call, because that's the reason why you have officials on the field. You don't just sit there and say, well, we're not going to call anything because it's a championship game. That's a call you have to make.
Well, see, I think that it ought to be just completely the opposite. Whether this is a preseason, the first week of the preseason, or this is the damn Super Bowl, call it the same. Yeah. You got one job to do.
Well, but like you said in the beginning, this is not a week 3 game. This is not a preseason game. This is not, well, you have a next week. This is the game to go to the Super Bowl. This is the game. This is the drive of the game. This decides it all. You have to let the players play. I understand that you have to let the players decide the outcome on the field, but at the same time, you can't sit there and say, well, you know what? It's a free-for-all. Whatever happens, happens. If a guy gets held and gets pulled down, I'm not going to call a holding on this because I don't want to affect the outcome of the game. I'm not going to call roughing the passer. I'm not going to call pass interference. I'm not calling anything. I won't call offsides. I won't call it. You can't do that.
No.
You still have rules you have to follow. And if you miss a face mask because a face mask is harder to see, that's fine. But there's 3 officials looking at this same play. They're going to have to call that penalty.
That's why you have, what is it? Is it 7 or 9 guys on the crew?
7, I think. I think it's 7.
That's why you have that many guys.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it's 7. I know it's not 9.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: before I have an aneurysm, let's kind of move on from that.
Yeah, it's 7. It is 7. That's what I thought. I was counting the line judge, the back judge, the referee, the umpire. As you start counting them, side judge, line judge. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's 7 of them.
Well, let me ask you this. You're pretty educated and pretty knowledgeable in this. You always shudder when I say that.
I watch a lot of NFL films. So that's all I can say.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
The two overwhelming favorites for pretty much the second half of the season in this chase for the MVP has been Pat Mahomes and Drew Brees. And they both bow out within 3.5, 4 hours of one another. Does this, of course, arguably the third place candidate in that race was Phillip Rivers, who bowed out a week prior. Do you think that do you think that there's any way now that Brees still gets that MVP?
People are going to hate me for saying this, but no, I don't think he gets it, and this is why. It's the gaudy statistics. You know, we're in the. I've shared this before, but you know, we've gone through the whole list of every year Brees has been in the conversation for MVP. The reasons why he didn't get it. This one year, he didn't have the statistics. This next year, or he didn't have the completion percentage, or he didn't have the discrepancy between touchdowns and interceptions. Then the following year, oh well, you know what? It's quarterback rating. And then this year, oh, you know what? It's whatever they decide it's going to be. The fact that Drew Brees didn't throw for 4,000 yards, I think hurts his chances. And the fact that Mahomes threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, I think enhances his chance of getting it, because they're going to sit there and they're not going to worry about the number of interceptions. They're going to worry about how he did against the best teams in the regular season. All that matters to them is gaudy statistics. He's got 5,000 yards passing. No one was even close to that number to him. He has 50 touchdowns. No one was even close to that number in him. It's all going to be Mahomes. You know, they're going to love that. That's just the way it's going to be. And
as much as I hate to say it,
it sucks, but that's just the reality.
As much as I hate to say it, I'm probably going to agree with you there, strictly on the foundation of past history. And also what hurts is the fact that they both went out at the same time, basically. So that kind of makes it a toss-up.
If Brees would have thrown for, say, 4,500 yards, okay, 4,500 yards, threw 43 touchdowns, but only threw 5 interceptions all year, or 4 interceptions all year, or something, you know, unbelievable like that, and had a higher completion percentage. I mean, had the same kind of completion percentage, and had a 13-3 team, and was number 1 seed, all those things, then he's got a much stronger argument, or Mahomes has a much harder time winning the MVP. But I think what's going to happen is it's all the rest of those sports writers who get to vote on it outside of Kansas City and the major media markets that are all going to slide Mahomes, because they look at statistics. That's all they're going to look at.
Yeah.
That's how he gets it. I think
agree.
Brees had to show. I hate to say this, because you completed 74% of your passes, which is just a mind-boggling number. But
how many interceptions did he finish the year with?
I think he finished with 5. I think it was 5.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, but they're going to look at the yardage and say, well, you know what? He didn't throw very many yards. So he was completing a high percentage of his passes with short dump-off passes, not big plays like Mahomes was, which is ridiculous because Mahomes threw more screens than anybody else. But that's not how they're going to see that. They're just going to look at statistics, and that's just the way it's going to be, and it sucks. It does. It really does, because if the things were reversed, I still have a feeling that people would be like, yeah, well, the Saints throw the ball a lot. You know, there's always a yeah, but when it comes to us. And I don't know what it is, which is feeding the argument that this was the whole thing. The reason why we didn't go to the Super Bowl is a conspiracy, a conspiracy, you know, that you had to go watch In Living Color years and years ago to get that joke. And
I got you.
Yeah, the old French fry man joke.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, my brother. There's no way the white man's going to the black man be in charge of his French fries. They just don't give us that kind of power. It was a classic routine by the Wayans brothers. It was unbelievable, yeah. And that's when he said it's a conspiracy, a conspiracy. I think it was the Wayans brothers who did that. I think it was the two of them doing that French fry because he was all proud. He was getting promoted to be French fry manager or something like that.
Damon and Keenan Ivory.
Yes.
Yep.
The same two that used to do the two snaps.
Guy.
No, not the homeless guy. The two gay guys. The two snaps and a twist. You know.
Oh yeah. I can't tell you how ashamed I am that I know that.
Yeah, I tell you what, Living Color was hilarious back in the day.
It was. And Jim Carrey, the fireman.
That was the first time I ever saw Jim Carrey. Was back in the day.
That was his debut, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Are you gonna watch the Super Bowl?
No. Which, you know, that's not hard for me to say. I've missed a few Super Bowls over the years. I didn't see the Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl at all. I saw that in replay because I was in Disney World that day, and I wasn't interested in watching it, so I didn't see it. I actually didn't watch the entire first half of the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl because I wasn't going to sit and watch that shit. I mean, I don't like either team, so I wasn't going to watch it. The only thing I saw was my wife came running up front to tell me the Patriots were coming back as Atlanta kept scoring. I'm like, oh my God, this is like a nightmare. But as Atlanta kept scoring and winning this game, I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want to cheer for Brady because I don't want him to get another damn ring, and I'm not cheering for the Falcons, so I'm not watching this crap. So I'm watching movies. I got a whole stack of movies I can watch anytime on DVD and Blu-ray. And I got Netflix.
If you'll pull, that's even better than my response, because if you'll go back and pull up our shows leading up to that Super Bowl, I think I was cheering for a nuclear holocaust to occur before the game started.
So I put it on in about the middle of the fourth quarter, right when it was 28-3. I put it on around that time when they started. Yeah, it was the third quarter when the Patriots started to come back. That's when I put it on, and I watched the end of the game. That was all I saw. But it's not hard for me to not watch the Super Bowl. I mean,
it is for me. I mean, the entire season. I guess maybe from all those years of following the Saints, when it gets to the postseason, you just ride with someone else because you know your team's not going to be there. And you find a way to enjoy the game. I don't know if I'm going to watch this year or not, because
you know what? You know how it's easy for me not to watch it, because from 84 to about 2000, maybe 2001, the Super Bowl stunk, all of them. I mean, how exciting was it to watch the 49ers beat the Denver Broncos 55-10? It's not. Who wants to watch that? Except for 49er fans. I was bored out of my skull. I hated those Super Bowls. Those were horrible games. The Bears, 85 Bears destroying the Patriots. I was mad the Dolphins weren't in the game. You know, I knew the Patriots were going to get their butts kicked, but it was a terrible game. I watched about a quarter of that stuff. The Dallas-Buffalo Super Bowl stunk. Those were horrible games. The only reason why anybody even remembers the first one is because Leon Lett fumbles the ball. You know, when Don Beebe runs it down and knocks it away. That's what they remember. And Jimmy Johnson's hair getting messed up. Nothing else. You know, all those games that were horrible to watch because they were blowouts. You know, so it's easy for me not to watch it because it's a boring game. Unless you're gambling or at a party where you don't give a damn about it, it's just on for entertainment. It's just background noise. You know,
well, I
not
don't
watching that game for a good game.
I don't expect anyone to like use me as an example or anything even remotely like that. If the Patriots played Al Qaeda, I would probably want to know the point spread before I chose a side. Um, I despise Tom Brady. I resent everything that he is, stands for, and has accomplished. Um, and if you think for one minuscule moment that there is any chance in hell that I'm going to support the Rams, oh no, 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 no. Uh, to quote my friend Sean Fox, pulling for the Rams in the Super Bowl because they're in the NFC is, I can kind of put that on the same level as cheering for Satan because his name is in the Bible. It ain't going to happen.
The advantage, though, that we've had for the past 19 years and 18 of the 19 Super Bowls, really 17 of the past 19 Super Bowls, they've all been close games. I mean, starting with 2001 with the Patriots and the Rams. You know, you had close games, except for the Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You had good close games where you had league changes, where each team had a chance to win the ball game. You know, those were good Super Bowls. Those were exciting Super Bowls that we've gotten kind of conditioned to, that we've forgotten all the super blowouts they've been having. They had, and in fact, most of the Super Bowls, if you look at the history of the game, most of the Super Bowls are super blowouts. That's just the reality of the game. The magnitude of the game, the magnitude of mistakes that happen in the game, games that get away from you, you know, that happens in Super Bowls. You can, if you exclude, since the turn of the century, you exclude those games and look purely from, say, I don't know, Super Bowl 39, maybe. I think that's the last one. 38. I don't remember which. Super Bowl 30 was Steelers Cowboys in 95. So 5 more years since Super Bowl 35 then. Super Bowl 35 to Super Bowl 1. You can count on one hand how many of those games were close games.
Sure.
2 of them were 49ers Bengals games. 1 of them is Super Bowl 13 Steelers versus the Cowboys. Super Bowl 10 sort of counts in that. But outside of that, you know, they're all super blowouts. Both of the first 2 are blowouts. Super Bowl 4 is a blowout. Super Bowl 5 is a mistake-filled game. Super Bowl 6 was a blowout. Even though we would think today 24-7 is not really a blowout, but it was that dominating of a performance. Just like Super Bowl 7, 14-7 is a blowout from the standpoint of the Redskins only scored a touchdown because of Garreau's gaffe, you know, and all the way through, you know, all the rest of them are just dominating performances by one team, where the other team, even though the score doesn't show it, the other team gets points, either meaningless points or points at the end of a game. They were getting dominated that badly throughout the entire game. You know, that's just the reality of the Super Bowl. We've only started to see competitive games since the turn of the century. So, yeah, so to answer your question, it's not hard for me not to watch this. I'll put it on if it gets to be interesting and close at the end of the game. I might put it on at the end of the game. But that's it.
Well, let me ask you this. And there's a lot of conjecture on this, because if you look back over the course of this season, going all the way back to probably just before the draft, the personnel moves, the decisions made, the way that this organization chose to go after / acquire players made it look like they were going all in on this being the season. Is this a one and done year for the Saints, or do they still have? Because I believe I read somewhere. The reason that I asked this, I believe I read somewhere today that the Saints have something like 22 players looking at free agency at this point.
Yeah, but the bulk of them are not important players. The bulk of them are guys they signed during the season or guys that they weren't really interested in keeping, like a Manti Te'o, Ben Watson's retiring. It's not, you're not losing your core. Your core is still under contract. You're not losing Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Ryan Ramczyk, Warford, Armstead. You're not losing any of those guys. You're not losing Cam Jordan. You're not losing Davenport. You're not losing Sheldon Rankins. You're not losing any of those guys. Davis or, Lattimore, Apple. None of those guys are leaving in free agency. So your core is still intact, which you have free agents you could very well lose. I think P.J. Williams is one of them. Mark Ingram's another one who, and we all know that Ben Watson's retiring, it really is frustrating because of that man doesn't have the opportunity to play in the Super Bowl again. It would have been a perfect bookend for his career because his rookie year he played in a Super Bowl. You've got your core intact. You don't have many. You don't have many high draft picks. You only have 1 second-round pick. And Drew Brees is going to be 40 years old, or he is 40 years old. He's been playing this season as a 40-year-old. So from that standpoint, your core is young, so their window is still open. But your quarterback, and that's what you need to go to a Super Bowl. Your quarterback is old. You rebuilt a team around an aging quarterback. So, yeah, that's where you're running out of opportunities. It's very hard to win 13 games in the National Football League. It's even harder to secure the first number one overall seed in the playoffs. So you're home throughout the playoffs. So that hurts. And for the 2019 season to be successful now, you have to get to the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl or bust. It's not a case of, hey, I just want to get back to the playoffs and advance in the playoffs. That's not the case anymore. We've done that. We got over that hump, that divisional round hump that we got stuck on since 2009. We've gotten past that. We got to the third NFC title game that we've been in our franchise history. Now you have to get to the Super Bowl. And it's hard. It is so hard to do that we don't need officials blowing calls to make it even harder. So that's what's frustrating. That's why I'm never getting over this loss, because this is one of the last times we're going to be able to get that high. Maybe one more time, maybe one more trip is left in Breeze, and then he gets to be too old. I don't know, and neither Taysom Hill nor Teddy Bridgewater, who Bridgewater is a free agent too, are the quarterbacks of the future who are going to be able to take us to this point in the season. They're not those guys. You need a young guy now, a young quarterback who's got a incredibly accurate passing arm, who can run this offense like that. So it's tough. It's tough. It's not free agency I'm worried about. It's Drew Brees' age and how many more runs does he have left in him.
Yeah. Well, what concerns me, the Saints have added pieces to the mix along the way through free agency, like a Demario Davis, like a Eli Apple, free agency and trades. But primarily, this team was built through the draft, and you don't have that now.
Well, you don't
have
do it.
You don't have that for the duration of Drew Brees' career. Let me put it that way.
You burnt off a lot of assets because this was the push. This was the push to get to the Super Bowl. You burnt off a first and third round pick. But the good news is you have drafted so well that even just having a second round pick, even just having a fifth and sixth round pick, you can still find players, or you have the scouts and the front office to find players who can be role players on this team. You don't need starters. Well, you do need a couple of starters, but I'm saying you don't need to find the starters in the draft right now. You don't have that many holes that you need a starter to pan out immediately in that second round pick or that fifth round pick or whatever. You can plug a couple of those guys in through free agency. You can find a number 2 receiver maybe in free agency. You can find a tight end maybe in free agency. You can find a backup veteran tackle guard in free agency, because I think the other thing that's frustrating too is the injuries caught up to this team, unlike previous years. Losing Sheldon Rankins, losing even though David Onyemata played very well in that Rams game, C.J. Anderson did not have a good game, and for whatever reason, Todd Gurley was sat on the sidelines most of that game.
He's hurt.
Well, they said he was healthy though, but he was very ineffective when he was in there.
Gurley hasn't been 100% probably from the 3/4 point of the season.
Yeah, so C.J. Anderson never really got going. He never had a good run. So we really did a good job on him, despite not having Sheldon Rankins. We did get some push in the middle. Tyler Stallworth and I'm sorry, I just combined 2 players' names, Tyler Davidson and what is oh God, what is Stallworth's first name?
That guy?
Yeah, that guy. No, it's anyway. Stallworth got some Taylor, thank you. Yeah, Taylor Stallworth and Tyler Davidson. No, Davison. Yes, I combined the 2. Taylor Stallworth and David Onyemata got some good push up the middle, got a little bit of a pass rush going. So, Davenport was a bit of a disappointment in that game because Davenport didn't have much of an impact. I thought Okafor had a better impact in the game. But the point is, though, you need to have a healthy Sheldon Rankins to rotate in there. We need a better wide receiver core. And that doesn't mean Des Bryant. That just means you need to get Cameron Meredith healthy. You need another speed threat, not so much Ted Ginn anymore. You need another speed threat who can catch consistently and stretch a defense. You need a tight end who can stretch a defense.
You need Traquan Smith to step up and be that draft pick that you made.
Yes. But it's just good. We have to be patient with him, but we'll see if he pans out. But you need somebody who can be that solid number 2 and puts the fear of God in defenses, that when he gets the ball, you got to watch where he goes. So you're not relying on a Keith Kirkwood or Austin Carr or a Tommy Lee Lewis at a critical point in the game. You've got somebody like a Michael Thomas out there who's even faster and threatens a defense. You so badly need a tight end. I mean, I cannot tell you. You need a Jimmy Graham type of tight end who is a pass catcher. I don't give a damn about his blocking. I'm just talking about as far as production in the passing game. I know people going to say, he doesn't block. He's soft. You know what? All he did was catch freaking touchdowns. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that like that. But, yeah, he does. All he does is catch touchdowns. And you know what? I want a guy who catches touchdowns on the field.
That's right.
Okay? You have Jimmy Graham play on this. You have Jimmy. I'm sorry. Let me just say this. You have Jimmy Graham playing this team. He doesn't drop that pass, Dan Arnold, drops. You know, he doesn't get knocked out with a concussion like Josh Hill. You know,
well, I mean,
he stretches the field.
That pass with Dan Arnold had to jump up and try to catch. Jimmy Graham would have caught like right here in the chest. So that makes a difference.
I know.
I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on our post-mortem edition. Guys, we're not going anywhere.
No.
There's going to be another World Championship game in about 12 months. And until somebody stops us from being there, we're planning on making reservations.
You know what's going to be fun, though? You know what's going to be fun? Having on press day when they start asking questions to the Rams. You know, and Roger Goodell, how many times they bring up this championship game? How many times you bring up about the referees? That will be fun because that's going to be constantly brought up. You know, that's not going to be something that people are just going to say, oh, well, it happened, sweep it under the rug and move on. No, that's going to be brought up every time you have a questionable call. Just like every year, we're going to see the Falcons blow a 28-3 lead because of NFL films. From now on, every time you start having questionable calls, someone's going to bring up the Saints-Rams game. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be fun. That's the good news of all this. It's not going to get forgotten. That will be in the NFL Films top 10 list of blown calls. That will be in like number 1. Yeah. Every time. It's like the tuck rule. How many times do you see the tuck rule play? Yeah. Brought up every postseason. You know, it comes up every post. This one will come up every time. So that's your legacy. Aren't you proud, Roger? That's your legacy.
Yeah. That and you suspended a guy 2 games for beating a woman unconscious in an elevator. Yay, you! Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We invite you once again. We thank you for being a part of our show. We invite you guys to subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. Join us on Facebook at Under the Dome Podcast. Did we forget anything?
I don't think so. Let me look at this list again. The only thing we didn't talk about the state of the league, and I just kind of brought that up real quick. That's about it.
Yeah, the state of the league. I'm not real impressed with the state of the league. It's not the state of Louisiana, so they can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys. Love you all. Look forward to seeing you again next week under the dome.
Good night, everybody.